We welcome on three's Pete Nakos, who started Monday morning by dropping the news that Kyle McCord is leaving Ohio State. He's in the transfer portal. Pete, we're trying to figure out, okay, we got Woj bombs. What are we going to call it when you break transfer portal news? We're going to call it a Nakos bomb. A Nakelier bomb was one I thought of, but we got to come up with a way to phrase this.
Our honorable colleague Jack Terry suggested Nakos notifications, and I'm a fan of that one.
Nakos Nakosification. No, Nakos notifications. Say it 5 times fast. You'll love it. Okay, perfect. Nakos notifications. We have a Nakos notification. Perfect. Rolls off the tongue. All right. Let us start with Kyle McCord, because I think this is one where the casual fan looks at it and goes, oh my God, I just watched him playing for Ohio State against Michigan. He's a sophomore. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. Well, I'll try to tell you what's going on. I think that, and just from conversations I've had and things like that, I think the McCord family was looking from a commitment from Ohio State that Kyle was going to be the starting quarterback next year. And Ryan Day and the Ohio State program wasn't ready to make that commitment. And that's understandable. I think what's really clear too is the decision was more about the betterment of Ohio State more so than anything else. I think obviously you've talked about Ryan Day's in a very peculiar position right now with everything that's going on, coming off 3 straight losses to Michigan. And right now it's about doing what's right at Ohio State and not what's best for Kyle McCord. And that's the blunt reality we're in.
And that, I think that's something that people just aren't used to. But in this age where players can leverage their own success for more financial success in the transfer portal, I think the teams do have to consider the same stuff. And so again, another piece of Ohio State news: Julian Fleming, a receiver who had a role on this year's team. I think with Jeremiah Smith coming in, with Carnell Tate probably taking on a bigger role in his second year, even with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Ibuka leaving, that's what I was trying to figure out. Was there necessarily a bigger role for Julian Fleming, or would he have to go elsewhere to find that?
Yeah, I mean, you have so much talent coming in, and if Jeremiah Smith does stick with his commitment, as everything seems on track, I mean, you got Brandon Ennis, you have Carnell Tate, you have Jeremiah, and you have plenty of other talent in that room. What is Julian Fleming's role? And the last thing I wanted to mention too with Andy about Kyle McCord is I think you also have to give credit to Kyle. He made his decision quickly, and maybe Ohio State didn't like how it shuffled out, but we're in this world now with NIL dollars, and he can't wait till December 15th and enter the portal and have every option open. You got to go now because spaces are taken up. So I think the McCord family had to make that decision as well.
Well, and where might he be looking?
Yeah, I've had some conversations early on. I think the 2 factors here are going to be, one, Kyle is not going to want to go play for a lesser Big Ten opponent. He does not want to be in a position where he plays Ohio State. I just don't think that's something he wants to do. And number 2, it's all about development for the NFL. He worked with Ryan Day, one of the best quarterback coaches in the country this year, and now I think he needs to go find a place that's really going to help development in year 2 as a starter.
We got to talk a little more about the college football playoff, about the bowl season, because our friends at FanDuel have been nice enough to provide us with lines for these games. So go to FanDuel.com/Staples, sign up, and if you make a $5 winning money line bet, could be on anything in the NFL, the NBA, NHL, college football, you get $150 in guaranteed bonus bets. So one winning $5 money line bet, which is you saying, I think this team will win, and you get $150 in free guaranteed bonus bets. Well, I mean, there's a few of those, like Jeff Brom at Louisville. I know Tyler Shuck, the Texas Tech transfer, is supposed to visit them there too, but that seems like it might be a fit. Let's talk about some of these other folks in the portal. The Dillon Gabriel news. The guys at Sooner Scoop were prepping me for that last week because they were asking me, what's his value in the portal? I'm like, guys, we're a little premature here, I feel like. But he's in there. It feels to me like he's the most valuable quarterback out there.
Yeah, I think that the experience, I mean, playing at Oklahoma, I think you could argue, right, that's a top 10 program in terms of
Mhm.
national spotlight. He proved, I mean, that drive against Texas and the River rivalry, I mean, can you get much better than that? That was pretty impressive. So the experience, he's obviously been in Jeff Lebby's offense. So yeah, his name is going to be arguably the most highly sought after in the portal, and Oregon, Mississippi State, and USC are all going to be some schools to watch.
That's the thing. Like Mississippi State makes sense because Jeff Lebby is the new head coach there. That's his offensive coordinator from Oklahoma and UCF, so he's very comfortable in that system. But I can't help but imagine him running the offense Bo Nix ran this year.
Yeah, yeah. Just talking to sources and stuff, I really think that is coming together. But obviously, it's only day one, and we're going to have to follow this thing throughout.
Well, and that's the other part of this is we get this information, and like you mentioned with Kyle McCord, who you say doesn't have all his options available if he waits until December 15th. How quickly do other people who might be on the fence have to decide, hey, do I want to jump in or do I want to stay before they basically are running out of options?
Yeah, and December 15th, I kind of threw out there. I think that's kind of like a good middle marker for the 30-day window. But you hear this too, Andy. Like some of recruits going through the process are told to like make their decision before end of
Mhm.
November because their
Yeah,
spot's going to be
we
up.
have
Yeah.
two spots, and there are three we like at this position. So the first two who take it, it's yours. Yep.
So I think we're starting to see that in the portal, and there's less and less kids with COVID exemption, so maybe that'll be different next year. But obviously, if you're a quarterback who enters the portal like Dillon Gabriel or Kyle McCord or Dante Moore, I mean, you have a short list of schools you want to go to, and
Yeah.
it would really suck for you, honestly, if you went in too late and that place wasn't open anymore.
So Dante Moore is another one. He's announced that he's leaving UCLA and entering the portal. We have not seen his name into the portal. The other another guy in the Pac-12. Well, does the Pac-12 exist? I don't even. We won't get into that now. But Aiden Childs from Oregon State has made the announcement. We haven't actually seen him in the portal yet either. Is it possible Aiden Childs follows Jonathan Smith to Michigan State, and then you've got Michigan native Dante Moore? Does he wind up at a Big Ten school?
With Aiden Childs, I mean, I'm hearing rumors, and a couple sources have mentioned that a visit to East Lansing is on the docket for him. I think a lot of people assume that Aiden to Michigan State just makes way too much sense. And if you're Jonathan Smith, why would you not try to bring your quarterback who has experience in the offense in year one with the Spartans? And then in terms of Dante Moore, I think that Dante Moore, just talking to his camp a little bit today, he really wants to be developed more, right? Like things didn't go perfectly at UCLA this year.
Mm-hmm.
And he had those 7 to 10 balls every game where you were like, wow, that is a 5-star. There's a reason why Dan Lanning wanted him. But he needs to develop more. I don't know if being thrust into a starting role in year 2 is exactly what he's looking for. One thing that was brought up to me today, right? Like sitting behind JJ McCarthy for a year. Could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine a better situation for Dante than going to Michigan and stuff? There's a lot of outside factors too, though, at Michigan right now that just need to kind of be settled.
Well, and the question with Michigan, one, is Jim Harbaugh going to be there? Two, is JJ McCarthy even going to be there? Because he's one of the NFL
Right.
people love, and he's got to make a decision. Another guy who has to make a decision is Georgia's Carson Beck. I've talked to some people, and he's still on the fence. He's not going to leave Georgia to go to another school, but it's the NFL or come back to Georgia. We saw Brock Vandegrift say he's going to transfer,
Yeah.
so their backup is gone. If Beck goes, what does Georgia do? Because they have Dominic Raiola coming in, but would they go find somebody?
Yeah, you have Dylan Raiola coming in. I've also been told.
Oh, Dominic, that's
Yeah.
his uncle. My bad.
Yeah.
Played center at Nebraska.
What Georgia does necessarily, I think, remains to be seen. I think there's a lot of hope right now in Athens that Carson does come back. And then in terms of Brock Vandegrift, I've been told from multiple sources that Kentucky is going to be the school to beat there.
Well, they do love their transfer quarterbacks in Lexington.
They
So
do.
it's a fun one. All right. So speaking of transfer quarterbacks in the SEC, this is the wildest one that you reported today. So we wrote tons about Tyler Buckner when he left Notre Dame to go to Alabama after spring practice. He ends up playing against USF. Very clear he's not the best quarterback on that roster. Jalen Milroe takes back over. Tyler Buckner is in the transfer portal today, but not in the way the other guys are. So what is he doing?
I think that, well, Tyler Buckner is the men's lacrosse transfer portal. That came out this afternoon. What is Tyler Buckner doing? I think that he just wants to reassess and explore all options. This season at Alabama definitely did not go as I think he envisioned and some others envisioned. Obviously, Jalen Milroe has been fantastic, and Bama's in the college football playoff now, arguably because of his performance in the late stretch. But yeah, Tyler Buckner is going to be on the men's lacrosse free agency market. And as funny as that is to say, I think it's something Tyler really wants to do. Definitely not going to rush his decision. But as Blue and Gold's Mike Singer reported earlier tonight, and I have heard from some other people too, returning to Notre Dame, being on the Fighting Irish's men's lacrosse team would be a really good fit for Tyler.
Well, they wear the same kind of gold helmets. And for all the lax bros out there, Buckner's a midi, and he did commit to play for Michigan in high school originally, to play lacrosse at Michigan before deciding ultimately to play football at Notre Dame. So that is you got aggregated by Inside Lacrosse today, Pete. I bet you never thought you'd appear in that publication.
A first for everything, Andy. First for everything.
Inside Lacrosse, by the way, the greatest all-name team of any publication. They every year they do a lacrosse all-name team, and you're like, holy trust fund, Batman. It's tremendous. All right, Pete, what can we expect here in the next few days? Because like we mentioned, there's some announcements. Dante Moore, Aiden Childs, Walter Nolan at Texas A&M, the defensive tackle. They've said they're entering the portal. They've not done it yet. Do you think we're going to get any of these guys say, you know what, I'm good, I'm going to stay?
You know, I have not heard of any of that. Obviously, you and I talked earlier today about Walter Nolan. I still believe he's on track to enter the transfer portal, but it's Monday at 6:30 Eastern time. Do I know if he's going to go in or not? I think he is, but obviously he made the announcement last night. It's a little odd that he hasn't gone in yet. But yeah, I think all the big names who announced will go in.
I get the same sense on Nolan as well, and I think there's a chance he could be one of the most sought after people in the portal. Obviously, people want quarterbacks, but so far there has not been a defensive tackle even close to his caliber. A couple guys from the Ivy League who I think can help some people out at the Power 5 level. But Walter Nolan is a 5-star talent who, in the time we've seen him on the field, seems to be capable of doing the things we thought he could do as a high schooler.
100%. And the last thing to mention about Walter Nolan, and I'm sure you've heard the same thing, is like, linemen do not grow on trees, right? Grown linemen do not grow on trees. Yep. And the other really interesting thing about linemen in the transfer portal is, like, you see Alabama, you see Georgia, they won national titles because of the trenches. So if you go add a Walter Nolan, and I don't know, maybe you have a really electric offense, and all of a sudden you have someone playing in the middle of your defensive line who's making all the difference. I mean, that truly makes the difference from going, I don't know, fringe top 10 to a top 5 team possibly.
Right. And you know, Texas developed its interior defensive lineman, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy this year, but that's what you have to make the playoff. Texas didn't have that before. Now they do. So yeah, if you want to get like those teams that you're watching in the playoff, Michigan, Alabama, Texas, well, even Washington to an extent, they've had a great run of interior D linemen over the last 10 years. Like, you have to get those guys either out of high school or now. And when one pops into the portal, as we saw with Barry Alexander last year, it doesn't happen often.
Yeah. And I mean, when they do pop in, like, they're not going to be on the market for like 30 days. Like, that, once Walter Nolan goes in, I'd give it 10 days until he makes a decision, because he's just going to be swamped by offers and visits and things like that.
Well, is that why Riley Leonard does a do not contact when he enters the portal? Because he knows, basically, like, I know where I want to go, so we'll reach out to those people and we'll compare and contrast and not worry about everybody and their brother calling.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an elite player like Riley Leonard, like you're gonna know where you want to go. And Riley Leonard's making the decision to go back to college instead of go to the NFL draft. So everyone's like accusing of tampering and things like that. The do not contact is because Riley Leonard sat down with his family, he sat down with his agent probably, and probably listed 3 schools that he was going to take seriously. And then he put
Yeah.
his name in the portal, and then his camp went out, and well, actually, he was contacted by the schools and made it probably very clear what his 3 schools were going to be.
And when do we think some of these dominoes will fall? Because we've seen the early ones, the players whose coaches left or whose coaches got fired, like Max Johnson. He leaves Texas A&M. He's already committed to North Carolina.
Right.
Some of these that have gone in today, when will we see the dominoes fall of them actually making choices?
I think I hate to say this, but it's really like recruitment by recruitment, right? Like Riley Leonard is adamant he is going to go on a visit before he makes a decision. And maybe he'll make his decision on the visit, and maybe that comes this week. But with some of the names that you're seeing going in right now, I would give it like the 7 to 10 day time frame. And like we talked about earlier with like Kyle McCord going in so early, a lot of these guys want to commit now too. So then their dream school, whether it be, I don't know, USC or Oregon, does not get swept up. Because just like, yeah, I mean, Lincoln Riley needs a quarterback. He doesn't want that to dry out if you're a head coach.
The race is on. Pete Nakos, we'll be talking quite a bit in the next few weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.